But a lot of times, a lot of money is spent and nothing is set aside for those latter years when these healthcare costs start to pile up. And unfortunately, John, it's going to start hitting people sooner than they expect, especially now that basically Obamacare has just overburdened the healthcare system. And now we're going to start seeing double-digit increases in premiums and deductibles and out-of-pocket expenses, not just for those that are retired, but also those that are working today.
And to summarize it all up, pay attention to your health. And this is the thing I urge even my friends who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, Jim. I know of some friends of ours whose 38-year-old son is dying right now from cancer. And so these types of cancers are actually moving down. There's certain types that are moving down in the age group. I tell everybody, you have to take care of your health and do the screenings that are normal. Pay attention to your health. Treat your body well when you're young. It'll thank you when you get older. Number 2, have a plan, any kind of a plan. You can start with a plan and then revise it as you go forward. And also, number 3, start incorporating medical costs and other incidences coming from medicine into that planning. That's really important. And now every week we study cases here on this program. There are some big ones and small. Oh, the wrong kind of cases. I'm sorry. No, these are real life studies of people who have been in retirement situations, and we changed the names to protect their privacy, but they were real life circumstances and how we dealt with them. Go ahead, Jim. Our couple this week is
John and Carolyn Johnson. John was 83. Carolyn was age 84. This is the second marriage for John and Carolyn. Both of them lost their spouses in the last couple of years. They've been married roughly about a year. And the issues that they were dealing with is they both had homes that were free and clear and paid for. And they're getting to that age in their 80s. Both of them had parents that lived well into their 90s, some in long-term care facilities. And so they were getting concerned about that. Obviously, with getting married, they didn't need 2 homes. And they were seriously looking at ways to address long-term care if one of them should become ill or need long-term care like Alzheimer's or some kind of disabling disease. And as you know, John, for a single individual, I have clients that are paying $70,000 to $80,000 a year for a long-term care facility. So they were thinking, gosh, if both of us end up in a long-term care facility, that could be $160,000 a year. And especially here in California, where those costs are quite expensive. So they were concerned about, given the history in their family of longevity, and also eventually you live long enough, you're going to get something, dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever it is. So that was their main concern. And especially they wanted to leave their assets to their respective families and not basically end up dying broke. So if we take a look at John's assets, mainly a $1.4 million bond portfolio. Basically, he didn't like stocks. He had enough of that with the tech bubble crashing and then, of course, what happened in 2007. So mainly all his assets, he had some CDs at the bank. He had a little over $1.4 million in a bond portfolio. His home was valued about $700,000. It was free and clear, no mortgage. Carolyn's assets were roughly a little over $1 million in an IRA. That was her husband's rollover from work. Had about $300,000 in her trust account. Her home was closer to $600,000. Social Security, John's Social Security was roughly about $2,200 a month. Carolyn's was about $1,700. So roughly they almost had $3,900 a month, or let's call it almost $4,000 a month coming in from Social Security. Investment income, John's was $35,000. Carolyn's was $39,000. The difference being, even though John had a little more, John had a lot of tax-free bonds, which we told them, given their tax bracket and medical expenses, you should put some in corporate. He'd up his yield a bit. So total income from Social Security and basically investments was roughly about $120,000 a year. And what they did is they said, what can we do? Because we're concerned about, should either one of us go into a long-term care facility here in California? It's very, very expensive, $70,000 to $80,000. They looked into a retirement home. And they looked at a nonprofit one, which was much cheaper. And John, the retirement home income would be $7,000 a month, or basically $3,500 a piece, and also $500,000 down, non-refundable. So basically, you put down some money, you have an equity stake, in the place, and that brings down your overall cost. But the nice thing about it is they had medical facilities right there at the residence. So should one spouse end up going into a long-term care facility, let's say somebody got Alzheimer's and they had to be under care, the only extra cost would be an extra meal a day, so it'd be an extra $25. And so it just made a lot of sense. Number one, they know they didn't need two homes because obviously you only need one house. And so basically the plan was sell the homes, and that would yield roughly about $1.3 million. It would cost $500,000 down for a facility, and this was a nice facility. It'd be a 1,900 square foot apartment, 2 bedrooms, a little kitchenette, and then it would be roughly about $7,000 a month. That would be $3,500 out of pocket. After selling their home, they would have an extra $800,000 to invest. Conservatively at 3%, that would be an extra $24,000 of income a year. So their income would be $144,000. Their medical expenses would be roughly close to $80,000 for the long-term care facility. But the way they looked at it, you know what, just by themselves, in other words, if they just got a home, kept one of the homes, let's say they sold one of the homes and lived in the other, if one of them got sick, that would be $80,000. If both of them got sick, that would be $160,000. So the solution to this was actually selling their homes and moving into a retirement home that had on-site facilities to handle incapacity, disability, or let's say a debilitating disease. And that was the solution here, because they really did want to preserve their assets and pass it on to their children. And they were able to do this with this solution. So basically, they were taking the equity of the house, moving some of that into an investment portfolio and some of it as a down payment to bring down the monthly cost of staying in that facility.
So, Jim, in this case, which was really fortunate here, not only did they handle the increasing medical costs, but then they incorporated long-term care into everything, because originally long-term care was not there, and they anticipated living for a long time, and they might need that. So, again, a success by having a plan and making a sober assessment of where you are and what you'll need to do. Now, remember, this week we are having 2 parts to the Lifetime Income series. Tomorrow, our guest will be Jo Robinson discussing her book, Eating on the Wild Side. Your diet is a very important part of your health, and you can make incredible changes just by making incredible changes in your diet. The one thing I just encourage everybody to do is to take this seriously. A lot of people don't like to deal with their health. I mean, I didn't at one time, but then I sort of became an aficionado for it. Nutrition's a big thing. I tell young guys, especially I run into down at the gym, if you treat your body kindly, it will thank you when you're 10 or 20 years older than you are right now. One gentleman has a motto tattooed on his chest about taking all of the lambs he meets and making them into lions, so we're all strong and we can accomplish things, blah, blah, blah. And the next day I said, I had a thought about that. And I took this out of Proverbs. I said, always remember that a live dog is better than a dead lion. So remember, sometimes it's not important to be a lion. It's important to be alive. And there's a difference to that. And people just need to take it seriously. It's really a lifestyle. It's what you do. You incorporate it. It's not something you go out of your way to do. You do it just normally. So that's really, really important.
Yeah, and you really do need to take this seriously about your health, because it's beginning. You've seen medical insurance. I know as an employer, we have seen our medical costs just skyrocket since Obamacare was passed. And now next year, depending on your income, you're going to see your premiums up 22%, your deductibles up 23%, and everybody's premium is going up 20% in 2018. And if you work in the private sector and have private insurance, your health insurance can now become a taxable benefit. So imagine if your employer is spending $1,000 a month for your insurance, depending on your age. It's obviously higher, and it's becoming more expensive because to comply with Obamacare, insurance policies have to cover things you don't need. And so that makes it more expensive, and you can't price insurance properly because you have to take everybody now. You can't price in risk in terms of the people you take on and insure. So these costs are going to start going up, and you're going to start feeling, the pinch of that. You're going to see it in your paycheck in terms of your employer requiring more co-insurance on your part, or your deductibles are going to start going up. And if you're retired, you're going to see your premiums go up every single year, and they're going to start going up quite substantially as they are in 2017. Well, in the meantime, as always, we've run out of time. Do yourself a favor, folks. Really start thinking about this and coming up with a plan. It's amazing, the statistics, now that we have a large contingent of us Americans heading into retirement. There are a number of studies out there. 70% of Americans don't have any financial plan heading into retirement, and 80% have no plan to deal with medical expenses in retirement. It's really time to take this seriously. In the meantime, on behalf of John Loeffler and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining us here on Lifetime Income. Until you and I talk again, we hope you have a pleasant week.